This is right to impress, the total tone tune-up, good alliteration. The reason tone and voice matter so much, a lot of cases of misunderstanding in the world happen because what matters most is not what we say, but how we say it. And especially on paper, where you cannot use your facial expressions, where you cannot always clarify, where you cannot smile. Body language is not there. It's really hard to make sure your reader gets exactly what you mean in the way you want them to get it. Every time I think of tone, I think of this quote. I've learned that people will forget what you did, they will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So with every paper, you have to decide for yourself, how do I want my audience to feel? And it depends on the purpose of your paper. Every professor is different. Sometimes assignments are due early in the semester, and you don't know your professor enough yet to figure out their personality. Sometimes you don't know who you're writing for. It's a job application or a scholarship application letter. And that cover letter, you want to come off as the most professional person on earth, but so does everybody else who's applying for the same job. So you want them to get to know you better. This is where your tone and voice really comes in. Voice is not just your personality. Your voice is your chance to make the best first impression. On paper, you can do it without going to a dentist. The correct voice starts with deciding exactly what your purpose is. That is a weird noise. On paper, your only chance to make a good impression is sounding serious, professional, but also enthusiastic, and that is a delicate balance. That's the balance I'm going to show you in the upcoming slides. Know your audience. Always aim a little bit more formal. All of you did peer reviews. All of you read your classmates' papers in my classes. And all of you would agree that some of us went so far on the informal side that for a college paper it was just not appropriate. And of course, informal can be extremely engaging. Informal keeps your audience awake. But what kind of impression do you want to produce on your professors? How do you want them to feel about you? What kind of personal qualities should you portray to them? Trevor?
Know what you're talking about? Doing research.
Knowledgeable, which means don't puff up your language, but you still want to sound serious, to use professional terminology. What else do you want to convey to your audience? This is your chance for your audience to get to know you as a person. What kind of person should you portray to your teachers? Respectful. Somebody else? Anybody else? Jeremy? Please. I know, it's Friday morning and it's rainy. You should show that you take your topic seriously, that you're enthusiastic, interested in it, right? You should portray kind of an infectious level of enthusiasm. If your audience doesn't know your topic, your job is to make them care as much as you do. It's okay to elaborate. Like this image says, it's okay to go a little flowery early on to show that enthusiasm. You don't have to cut down every word. I told you to avoid wordiness, to cut out fluff, but you still have to show how much you care early on. You want to be reserved. You don't want to sound emotional. You don't want to crack jokes too much. If you show that you're not serious about the topic, the reader is not likely to take you seriously. But it's okay early on to show passion within limits. If you go too informal on a job application, you always risk letting your potential employers know that you are not taking it seriously. If you take your job too lightly, how reliable are you going to be? On scholarship applications, same thing. Humor is great when you know your audience likes it. If you don't know your audience, don't risk it. Personal stories, personal anecdotes. This is a problem because if you share something deeply personal and your audience doesn't like your approach, we have more people, come on in. If your audience is not a big fan of what happened to you, if they don't take your side in what you are describing, that's it, you lost them. Always aim a little bit more impersonal, a little bit more formal. Throughout the semester, if you realize your professor is a little bit on the chill side, like myself, if you realize throughout the semester that your professor is fine with certain aspects of your argument, you can do it in the later papers, but when you're still getting to know your audience, hey Kathy, when you're still getting to know your reader, aim a little bit more serious, a little bit more professional. You can always bring on the feisty later on in the semester. So in speech, you have your rhythm. You can raise your voice. When something is really important, you know how in my classes, all of you know me, I always start screaming when it's really important. I suddenly get loud. You can't really do it in your paper without using all capital letters or italicizing. And it's lame because it's obvious. Yeah, I screamed lame. You can use word choices, figures of speech instead of one big offensive word. You can use syntax, sentence structure to do rhythm. Meaningful pauses with punctuation. I touched on all of those in my class. But punctuation is not just making yourself sound like someone who knows grammar. It's controlling how your audience reacts. I have some really good examples. Raise your hand if in your head you're thinking that I am going to show you some more MLK. No, because I don't want to be predictable. Part of your voice is surprising your reader. Don't be predictable. By now you know the example I always give you in class, so I'm not going to give you the same thing. I'm going to give you sentence structure based on Gandhi. Similar but not the same. Consistent but not predictable. Draw attention of your readers to what really matters by deciding for yourself what is that one word before you construct the sentence. What is that one word I want them to pay attention to the most? Engage the reader. Play around with several different word choices. Choose the one that's the least flat. Choose the one that will cause reaction. And because Jeremy knows now that I'm a technological genius, I fixed something myself, which never happens. All of you know that. I'm going to show you a video and it's going to work. And you tell me, listen to all of Gandhi's sentences, and then we'll discuss what specific parts of those sentences he makes you pay attention to.
There is no cause for which I am prepared to kill. Whatever they do to us, we will attack no one, kill no one, but we will not give our fingerprints, not one of us. They will imprison us, they will fine us, they will seize our possessions, but they cannot take away our self-respect if we do not give it to them.
Have you been to prison? They beat us and torture us.
I am asking you to fight. To fight against their anger, not to provoke it. We will not strike a blow, but we will receive them, and through our pain, we will make them see their injustice, and it will hurt, as all fighting hurts. But we cannot lose.
And the words that he repeated the most and emphasized the worst were the shortest words, and they were and, no and not, right? We will not give our fingerprints. We cannot lose. The beauty of choosing what matters the most. It doesn't even have to be a noun or an adjective or a verb. What he is trying to tell his audience is to not agree to the new law imposed by the British requiring every Indian to submit their fingerprints. What matters the most is not doing what they're told to do. For that reason, that's the word that's not just repeated the most, but in sentence structure emphasized the most. Look here. There is no cause for which I am prepared to kill. We will attack no one. Clause number 1 ends with no one. And you already know from my classes what's at the end of the clause of a sentence is emphasized the most. We will not give our fingerprints, not one of them. For someone who is so positive, he sure likes to repeat the word no. But it sinks in with the audience. He makes you remember everything you're not supposed to do. See how much magic extra credit works? They cannot take away our respect if we do not give it to them. You can emphasize important words not just by repetition, but by placing them at the important part of your sentence. Look at how he varies the length of his sentences. His first sentence was, I will repeat to you, it doesn't sound nearly as good when I do it, but I will. There is no cause for which I am prepared to kill. He starts short, right? Short, direct, to the point. Ease your reader in. You will have something complicated to say, always, because you're very smart and you're in my classes. So I will make you. You will always have something sophisticated to say, but start by easing the reader in. The voice that alienates is the voice that dumps all the most important information, all of it, in the first sentence and fizzles out later. The first sentence of your paragraph, of your introduction, of everything you write, whoever you write for, job application, scholarship application, for me, for your history professor, first sentence must be more of an announcement. This is what my main point is, without using the word I. And then you can complicate it. Let's go back to the previous slide. Let's see his next sentence. Whatever they do to us, we will attack no one, kill no one, but we will not give our fingerprints, not one of them. Much longer, right? But by now you are prepared. By now you are emotionally and mentally ready to receive that information. A lot of misunderstandings and fights happen because we don't read our signals. And the reader, especially, on the phone, you talk to someone, you can explain. You can stop, you can make a pause, you can laugh. On paper, we don't see the giggles. First sentence sends the signal. Make it short so the reader gets the correct signals. Complicate later. But he gave you a lot of information in that second sentence, didn't he? That's a lot of process. Apparently, they will kill us. That's not something that the reader wants to see. I wouldn't want to be told that I'm about to be killed. They will imprison us. Next sentence is shorter. If you want to give bad news, let's put it this way. Since today is Friday, I'm going to go there. Maybe you even know the movie Office Space. If not, you have to see it. It's really good. Garland, right here. See, we're all fans. How do they fire people in that movie? Unexpectedly, right? They just rip off the Band-Aid. If you have something negative to say, don't drag it. Where he says, they will imprison us, they will fine us, that's not good news. He doesn't drag it. If you have something negative, don't drag it. Don't wallow in your audience's pain. If you're writing to complain, especially if you've ever worked in customer service, I did when I was in college. If you've ever worked in customer service, do you enjoy getting long emails from customers explaining everything that you did wrong and everything is terrible and they're so unhappy? Couldn't you just put it in one sentence and get over with it? Don't turn into that customer. Don't complain too much. Make the negative short. But they cannot take away our self-respect if we do not give it to them. Positive. He's basically saying we will always have our self-respect. And the positive takes longer. That's where he gives a lot of meaning, a lot of emphasis. The last thing you say, what the reader remembers the most. You already know it because I say it in my every class. This makes perfect sense. It's expertly written. MLK studied what he said. That's why I use them both. But your word choices are everything. Remember what I started with my first slide? Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you did and what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. He knows that we don't like the word no. Do you like hearing no from me if you ask me something in class? But can I write about marijuana? No. And it's not because I don't like the topic, it's just because there's nothing new we can say on it. Well, he knows he cannot just go, no, no, not. It will not be positive. So he uses something negative to communicate positive. We will kill no one. The word no is in there, but he's saying that we will not do any damage. He's staying positive with every word choice. We will attack no one. Negative words, positive meaning. Keep it positive. Readers like good news. Cannot take away our self-respect. You can start negative, just turn it positive by the end of the sentence. Nobody likes hearing what's bad. People like hearing how to make it better. Find something positive. Your voice, your tone immediately makes a much better impression. Nobody wants to read a paper and walk away from it saying, this student made me feel so bad. Make me feel like I can do something to make the world better. Complaints only go so far. So your strong and appropriate word choices, you already know what ethos and pathos is, because I only use it every day. They convey your precise meaning, but they also make a correct impression. Ask yourself, how old is your professor? Not how old she looks, but how old she really is. And that's a secret I will never open, I will never reveal. But ask yourself, do they understand this word that I'm about to use in the same context as I do? Because every generation will use the same word in a different way. What do you want your professors to feel? Which of these faces looks good as a reaction to your paper? I almost never get this. Sometimes it happens like this, rarely, on some occasions. But basically, the reason why you want to use not just an approximately correct word, but the perfect word, is because if you make a slightly wrong impression, that's how you are remembered. And we professors, yes, we grade you on how well you fulfilled the assignment, all of my requirements, the intelligent part of it, IQ. But EQ, the emotional quotient, it's really, really important. Because next time you come to me and you ask me for an extension on the paper, if you made a very good impression, am I going to be more flexible? I'm fair, I'll be flexible to everybody, but I will feel a lot better about giving that extension to the person who makes me feel right. Don't sound generic. You don't have to be offensive to make a bad impression. If you sound generic like every other person on the planet, if all of your words reveal nothing, you're not going to be memorable, and your paper will turn into junk food instead of good nutrients for my brain. Give me nutrients. Do not sound too frivolous. I'm not talking about cuss words here. I sound frivolous at times in class because it's an afternoon class and I see part of my job is keeping you awake. But if you sound frivolous, you sound like you're not taking your topic seriously, you're not taking the class seriously. I sound funny at times, but I give you serious material. Here's what counts for generic. Cliches, words that everybody else is using. Think outside the box. Or my favorite, money doesn't grow on trees. No, really, tell me something I don't know. It's made of paper, though. Be specific. Find the most specific word choice. If everybody else is using the same word, then your paper doesn't portray your voice. Don't get too emotional and flowery. Remember how we talked about those French fries? Remember my example with the French fries and the magic cashier with the lightning fast fingers? And that was creepy, even though I wrote this. But if you start your informative essay with, do you remember being in school? Or to use our papers from Amy Chua's essay, do you like being told that you're inferior? You sound like an infomercial. Raise your hand if when you see an infomercial on TV, you do not switch the channel. I give it 2-second stops. If you sound too lighthearted, overly informal, if you start addressing the audience personally, or just flowery, overkill with adjectives and adverbs, serious professors, and I'm a lot more serious than I sound, serious professors will zone out. They will finish grading and reading because we have to, but the first impression is gone. And you always want to make your first impression striking, positive, make me want to finish every word, and when the paper is over, make me cry because it's over, because I want more. So what to use instead? Use terminology. Be a professional. Use the same words your professors are using. A little hint. In my 1302, when I put that image on Blackboard and I explained in class warrants, claims, Tolman analysis, I would have loved to see some of those terms instead of, she gives us that example, but that example is bad. That example would be backing. That is the terminology I would have loved to see, and it makes you come off a lot more serious. Make sure to use professional terminology. Use verbs. You already know how I feel about he gets there, she does it. It is often said. Denote a specific action. Keywords from jobs and scholarship descriptions. If you're not writing for a professor, not everything you will write in your life will be for professors. That's only the 4 years of your life that you spend in college. Well, make sure to use terms, the same terms that they use in the job description, the same terms they use in the scholarship description. Show them that you are exactly the person they're looking for. Those are your keywords. Use research, not personal examples. Not because I don't care about you personally. I do. But what if your other readers don't like the example? Find what you describe as your moment of pride, something that they would never do, cannot relate to you, will never agree with you. Why give them that chance? Good reason, not emotion. Not everybody responds to emotion. Logic is very hard to argue with. Good reasoning. If you must use adjectives, and there is nothing wrong with them, they are parts of speech. We will not outlaw them altogether. Play around with several different ones. You know, there are levels of connotation. Some are positive, some are negative. If you call somebody cheap, you're probably implying something negative about the person. They don't tip the waitress. If you call them thrifty, that just means they don't spend too much. If you say that they spend their money wisely, they're complimented by you. Don't go for the first word that pops into your head. Exactly what personal qualities do you associate with the person? What qualities do you associate with the event or the object that you are describing? Go exactly for the connotation, that additional meaning in the word, positive or negative or neutral, that you want the audience to catch on. Because as someone who in the past waitressed a lot, you say cheap, I'm not going to like that person. Not at all, never. Good self-esteem versus pride versus conceit, same thing. Try different words. See which one fits the best. It must fit. With every sentence, ask yourself, did I use the good image? No, I'm just joking. Ask yourself, did I offend the reader? Did I confuse the reader? Did I lie to the reader? Because readers are not stupid. If they see that you are making things up or embellishing, they will know, and the impression that you make will not be good. Finally, you already know what commas do. I'm not going to repeat what I said in class. But with the commas, you can make your readers take sides. If you're going to say something really bad about Amy Chua, as many of you did in your first paper, and that's actually a good article. I will tell you later what that is. If you are going to work to make your reader take sides, here's an example I like to use, and it's from a really good source. It's from the autobiography of Malcolm X. Everybody knows who he was, right? Good. And every time there is a punctuation mark, we might as well be building a wall between Malcolm X learning to read, reading a dictionary in his prison cell, and the guards trying to interrupt it. All that without saying, those bad guys, they were about to bust in on me. All that without using any overly emotional words. All he's doing is placing a comma or a dash. But with that punctuation, he makes that big separation, me versus them. And because you're all in college and you love to read, and if you don't, you will not tell me, whose side are you on? Not the guards. Even though they're good people, they're doing their job, and he's in jail for burglary. Anyway, you can do with commas, with punctuation, more in terms of setting the mood than you need ever to do with prolonged description. When you tell your readers how to feel, instead of guiding them in a smooth way with punctuation, when you beat the reader over the head and tell them, you have to be sad here because, see, I used the word sad and a frowny face. Well, if you do that, the readers will resist you. If you guide them with punctuation, they will follow you and they'll feel exactly how you want them to.